Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open one of the most famous novels of all time to find a story that's been hiding in plain sight all along, a surprisingly modern tale of money, class, and survival. And this is, of course, the iconic opening line of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. It's pretty much the blueprint for every single romance story that came after it, a line that just feels so grand and timeless and, well, romantic.
But what if this famous, celebrated line isn't really about love at all? What if it's actually a deeply cynical, maybe even sarcastic observation about money? Okay, let's dive into that.
To really get Pride and Prejudice, you have to understand the rules of the game, and they were pretty brutal for women back in 19th century England. See, marriage wasn't just a choice, it was basically the only career path on the table. And the first rule, this is the big one, is this legal thing called entailment. So for the 5 Minute Sisters, this meant the second their father died, poof, their home, their property, the whole shebang, it all goes to some distant male cousin. They could literally be thrown out on the street overnight, homeless and with nothing.
So think about it. You can't inherit the family home, there are no real jobs for you. What's left? Right. A woman's only shot at financial security, just having a roof over her head, was to marry well. That wasn't just part of her life, it was her life's business.
And this chart, wow, it just lays out the staggering stakes perfectly. Look at the difference. Elizabeth's inheritance is a bond that pays out about £40 a year. Now, Mr. Darcy, his annual income is £10,000. That's more than 250 times her income. So yeah, this isn't just a love story. We're talking about a potential corporate merger here. Now, what's so fascinating about all of this is that Jane Austen wasn't just making it up. This wasn't some fantasy world. She was writing what she knew. She was basically documenting her own reality, the same insane economic pressures she was under. She lived this firsthand. She actually fell in love, but was rejected because she didn't have enough money. And get this, she once accepted a marriage proposal from a super wealthy guy, set for life, but then turned him down the very next morning. She chose integrity over security. In the end, she never married and had to depend on her brothers for money. And she absolutely knew that her sharp, honest commentary on marriage and money was going to be controversial, especially coming from a woman back then. So to protect herself, she published all of her novels anonymously. The author's name was simply By a Lady. So how does this very personal, very critical novel create the legacy it has today? Because honestly, it's way more complicated and even more argued about than you might think. Today, Jane Austen is huge. She's a total cultural phenomenon. You've got global fan clubs, the Janeites. You've got endless movies and TV shows. And hey, in 2017, she even made it onto the British 10-pound note. The woman is an absolute literary rock star. But believe it or not everyone was a fan. In fact, a lot of the big-shot male writers of her time, they couldn't stand her work. I'm talking literary giants like Mark Twain. He fiercely criticized her for focusing on what he saw as trivial domestic stuff, courtship and romance. And you have to ask, why such a strong reaction? Well, a lot of that hostility probably came from the fact that she was willing to say the quiet part out loud. She pulled back the curtain and showed everyone that all our cherished romantic ideals about love, they're built on a foundation of cold, hard economic reality. And that's where you see her real genius, right? She didn't ignore that marriage was a financial system. Instead, she leaned into it. And by doing that, she captured this incredible turning point in history, this shift away from marriage as just a cold transaction and toward this radical new idea that it could be a partnership between two people who genuinely respect and, love each other. So that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on, doesn't it? It's been 200 years. But in a world where we're still talking constantly about money and status and social pressure, you have to wonder, how much have the rules of the game really, truly changed? You've probably heard of Pride and Prejudice. It's known as one of the greatest love stories of all time, right? But Jane Austen's classic novel is so much more than just a romance. It's this incredibly sharp and honestly pretty ruthless look at social pressure, snap judgments, and the really tough job of figuring out who someone truly is deep down. So, this is one of the most famous opening lines in literary history. And it's not just some witty little observation. What Austen is doing here is laying out the entire social and economic battlefield of her story in one single sentence. For the people we're about to meet, this isn't just a clever idea, it's literally a matter of survival. See, back in early 19th century England, a woman's entire future could depend on just one thing: who she married. And for the five Bennet sisters, well, the stakes could not be any higher. Their family home, their financial security, literally everything they have is on the line. So let's get into it. Just how desperate was their situation? This wasn't just about finding Mr. Right. It was a high-stakes financial game, where if you lost, it meant complete and total ruin. Okay, so the core of their problem is this tricky legal thing called an entailment. Basically, because Mr. Bennet doesn't have any sons, his daughters can't inherit the family estate. The second he dies, the house and all the money that comes with it goes to some distant male cousin. This would leave his five daughters and their mom practically homeless. So what's their only way out? They have to marry rich. And that's why when a wealthy single guy named Mr. Bingley moves into the neighborhood, this number is all anyone can talk about: £5,000. That's his yearly income, which was a mind-boggling fortune back then. His arrival isn't just town gossip. He's a potential lifeline for the whole Bennet family, and it sets off an absolute frenzy. The main stage for this whole high-stakes game is, of course, the local ballroom. It's right here, at a public dance, that all the first impressions are made. And it's where the huge conflicts of the novel get kicked off in one single, unforgettable night. And this is where the central clash happens. Mr. Bingley's friend, the even richer Mr. Darcy, comes across as unbelievably arrogant. He refuses to dance with anybody, and then he delivers the final insult. When Bingley suggests he dance with Elizabeth Bennet, Darcy loudly says she's just tolerable. Elizabeth overhears this, of course, and her pride is seriously wounded. Just like that, his pride has sparked her prejudice. So the first romantic matchups are set. Elizabeth's beautiful older sister Jane hits it off with the super friendly Mr. Bingley. Elizabeth, on the other hand, is totally charmed by a handsome soldier named Mr. Wickham. He seems like everything Darcy isn't. He's friendly, he's open, and he tells Elizabeth this horrible story about how the cruel Mr. Darcy cheated him out of an inheritance. And for Elizabeth, this just confirms all her worst assumptions about Darcy. So, the tension between Elizabeth and Darcy just keeps building and building. It's fueled by her intense dislike for him and his strange, almost unwilling fascination with her. And it all explodes in what has to be one of the most disastrous marriage proposals in all of literature. Completely out of the blue, Darcy shows up and declares his love for Elizabeth. I mean, on the surface, the words sound pretty romantic, but his delivery is all wrong. He spends most of the proposal talking about how her family is socially beneath him and how he's had to fight his own better judgment to fall for her. It's basically an insult disguised as a declaration of love. Elizabeth is understandably furious, and she just lets him have it. She accuses him of destroying her sister's chance at happiness, of being the villain who ruined Mr. Wickham, and of just being arrogant and awful. And then she finishes with this absolutely brutal final line, leaving him totally shocked. Now, a lot of guys might have just stormed off in a rage, but Darcy, totally stung by her accusations, does something really unexpected. He decides to defend himself, not with more insults, but with cold, hard facts. And in doing so, he is about to completely shatter Elizabeth's entire view of the world. The very next day, Darcy finds Elizabeth and hands her a long letter. And this is no love letter. It's a detailed point-by-point takedown of every single one of her accusations. As she reads it, she has to face this terrifying possibility. What if her own judgment, the one thing she prides herself on, has been completely, totally wrong? First, the letter drops a massive bombshell. The charming Mr. Wickham, he's not a victim, he's a total predator. Darcy reveals that Wickham wasted the money he was given, and then he tried to run off with Darcy's 15-year-old sister to get his hands on her huge inheritance. Next, Darcy explains what happened with Jane and Bingley. He admits he stepped in, but he tells her why. He saw Elizabeth's mother and younger sisters acting completely ridiculous in public, and he genuinely thought Jane wasn't really that into Bingley. He thought he was saving his best friend from a terrible mistake. Was it arrogant? Yeah, but it wasn't malicious. And this is Elizabeth's big moment of reckoning. She realizes that her hatred for Darcy all started with one single insult at a dance. And that one moment of wounded pride made her believe all of Wickham's lies. Her prejudice just comes crashing down and she is filled with shame. This is the moment her real transformation begins. So, a few months go by, and Elizabeth's new understanding of Darcy is about to be put to the ultimate test. We're moving beyond words and first impressions now. A real crisis is about to hit, and it's going to show everyone's true character. And then, the worst possible thing happens. The youngest, silliest Bennet sister, Lydia, runs off with, you guessed it, Mr. Wickham. This is an absolute catastrophe. By living with him without being married, she would bring disgrace to the entire family, making all her sisters totally unmarriageable and social outcasts. But look what happens next. While everyone else is just panicking, who takes action? Mr. Darcy. He hunts the couple down in London. He pays off all of Wickham's huge debts. He then bribes Wickham with even more money to get him to marry Lydia, saving the Bennet family from total ruin. And, this is the crucial part, he does it all in secret, wanting absolutely no credit. His actions speak so much louder than his awkward words ever did. Well, Elizabeth eventually finds out what Darcy did. And that's it. Her transformation is complete. She finally sees that underneath that proud, awkward exterior is a man of incredible integrity and generosity. And now the final pieces of the puzzle can finally fall into place. And this really gets us to the central lesson of the entire novel. You don't really know someone based on how charming they are at a party. You find out who they really are by seeing what they do when things get tough. Wickham was charming, but in a crisis, he revealed himself as a selfish liar. Darcy was awkward and proud, but when things fell apart, he was the one who quietly and competently saved the day. So when Darcy proposes again, it's a world away from the first time. He's humble, and she can finally see him clearly. He's learned to look past her social status, and she's learned to look past her own snap judgments. They've both grown up, and now they can truly see each other for who they are. And really, that's the question Pride and Prejudice leaves us with, even after 200 years. You know, it's easy to be nice when life is good. But when disaster strikes, who do you become? And maybe more importantly, who are the people that actually show up for you? That, as Jane Austen shows us, is the only truth that really matters.